Good evening, everyone. It's time. It's Saturday evening on an F1 race weekend, and that means it's time for one thing and one thing only. It's the MRL Endurance Series this week, taking place at Zandvoort. 72 laps around the Dutch circuit. And joining me, as always, for these 100% endeavours is, of course, Striffium. Striffium, how are you doing this evening?
I am very excited. Happy Halloween, everyone, of course. Not your typical Halloween that we're used to, given the conditions around the world with COVID and things like this. But we have a fantastic race today, the Dutch Grand Prix. We would, I'm sure, absolutely love to be visiting Imola this weekend. But, of course, as it is not in the game, we had to take a driver vote, and the drivers said they wanted Zandvoort. So here we are. Now, normally for these races, we take the real weather conditions that are happening at that place at time of the race. So we look at what happens in qualifying, and then we judge the weather on the qualifying there. And then the race conditions get judged on what the race would potentially see tomorrow based on the weather forecast. Now, today, we took that into consideration, and we've now, I think, how do I say this delicately? We've thrown a bit of a monkey wrench in the mix. We've thrown a bit of a trick in there, if you will,
It's Halloween.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very fun race. I know the forecast, and I am the only one that knows the forecast. So I know what's coming. Unicorn does not. And, it's going to be quite a fun and thrilling race this evening. 100% is the distance. I am very excited for this. Very excited for this. So I am, with that, going to see if we can't get these drivers readied up. Good to go here.
Going in blind is I do it for the races during the week. We always have that dynamic weather forecast for the traditional 50% league races that we hold throughout the week, but for some reason, I think it might be your anticipation for how exciting this race is going to be, and because obviously you know what the forecast is, so something about that is just that anticipation to find out what you're holding on to, what hand you've been dealt or have dealt the rest of us, is very interesting, and I'm very excited to see how it happens. So here we go. We are underway, shall we say, for the Dutch GP, and I don't know what to expect when we load into this qualifying.
Well, the drivers will be able to provide a forecast to all of us here. It won't be just random. Everyone's going to get an idea in a second. The veil has been lifted. Visually, it has not been lifted for us, but we are going to, I imagine, have somebody come across and absolutely lose their mind.
Okay. Well, what I'm seeing right now is a lovely sunny day in the Netherlands. There's no rain. There's very few clouds. So right now it's a little bit normal. But looking at the timing tower for tonight's grid, we have Gorzieg in the half sitting at the top spot right now. Vettel in the racing point. Valu in one of the Ferraris. Remco van Putten in the Red Bull. Relapse, Luksha, Sindaku, Jinkari, Ruben, Microlander, Codders, Liam, Freeware, Cactus, Jean, Astrodite, Hurricane, Mario Rossi, Yoda, and Alex Biddo. So, our first little bit of information. Fraser in the chat thinks it's going to be a clear to wet quali.
Well, if it is a clear to wet quali here, these drivers are going to have to get out and get a lap time in early. And they can't invalidate it. They can't make any mistakes. The drivers also, they have to look at that weather forecast. They have to get setups dialed in here. So they don't have a lot of time to get the setups dialed in, get out on those dry compound tires to get a lap in. Should we see any rain come in qualifying?
The first person to hop out onto the track on soft compound tyres, it's Remco van Putten in that Red Bull to take us for presumably our first flying lap of Zandvoort. And Zandvoort, new to the calendar this year, we haven't seen it ever in an F1 race in real life, but we've had a little bit of experience around here, and it is a very unique and interesting circuit. And 72 laps we're going to be doing around here over the course of this evening, plus qualifying. So probably in the 100 or so region in total, but I'm sure.
Remco van Vleuten, home GP for him. The Dutchman.
Always has that little bit of added, I don't know, wants to win the race. Obviously everyone always wants to win the race, but where's your home drawn very, it's just that little bit more desirable, I guess. As is there spray being kicked up at the rear of that car? Has it already rained? As he's come back into the pits. Looks like Sindarko the next to cross the line. And the Williams down through turn 4 then. On a slightly banked curve through turn 5. These fast few corners leading up to the long right-hander of turn 8.
Williams now coming through down into the right-hander. Now, I'm not too sure what happened with Remco van Vleuten there. On that lap, he decided to come in. DRS now for Sindarko as he makes his way into sector 3.
I don't think we saw him tap anything or break anything, so interesting choice from the Red Bull. Well, Sindarko is going to be the first one to cross the line. DRS enabled down towards the start-finish straight, and it is a 1:08.9 to open us up here in qualifying. Jana 1:09.9, so 1 second slower, and then Freeware 1:08.956, so half a tenth faster than Sindarko.
Mario Rossi, who is new to the grid, new to us here in the Williams. I believe he has applied to join the main league. Value as well. I do hope I'm not butchering that. Finnish driver here in Ferrari. Teaming up with Alex Bitto, and it's the two Ferraris on the front row right now, provisionally. A 1:08.479 from Value in P1. Alex behind him by 4 tenths.
And we got Cactus on the grid again this evening. He opens up with a 1:10.3. Obviously, we know a few of these drivers, like you said, more than others, but these events open as Yoda seems to have had an issue on his first flying lap coming out of turn 11. Maybe calling a little bit of traffic behind, I believe that's the Renault of Microlander.
Microlander right now, he's flying into the banking, this iconic Zandvoort banking that I do believe they reconstructed for this season of Formula One, and then unfortunately it wasn't seen. The Renault, a 1:09.5 from him on the soft compound tires. The gap right now from the leader, that lead Ferrari, to 9th position. Actually, we'll go with 10th position. 1.186. And there's an issue with the Red Bull. Yeah, and that's the Dutchman there in the Red Bull. He's had an issue. That entire front wing looks like it's gotten some damage. We'll have to see here. There's a car coming through. That was very close.
Microlander just avoiding that.
That is very, very intense right there. Ooh. Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Raggy and the Rag Nation. 65 years. Thank you very much for the host, sir, and welcome in. We are here for, well, first and foremost, happy Halloween. But we are here for 100% Zandvoort. And I can tell you that it is going to be quite dynamic. 100% distance, 72 laps, and we're probably going to see about 4 or 5 different tire compounds in this race. Guaranteed.
Well, the rain has just started pouring down, it would seem. Yoda crosses the the line with a 109.3, and it's an identical lap time to Mario Rossi's time. So those two could be very interesting to watch battle it out over the course of the coming 72 laps. But goodness me, the rain really is hammering it down on track, and I doubt we're going to see too many improvements on lap times. Remco looks like he's been forced to try again here after that spin on the last lap. The track now dampening is not going to help his traction. You can see him there again having a little bit of a squirm. He's managed to keep it valid, but it's going to cost him. But with these weather conditions, this might still be his best lap time, so he can't really have another crack at this. He's already come into the pit after his first outlap, and it's interesting because maybe that was a mistake. Maybe that is going to cost him big time on his starting position on this grid, and obviously we don't know what weather conditions the race is going to start in. The drivers will. It's probably just me who's left in the dark right now, but whether we're going to see these drivers start on what they qualify on, or whether we're going to see them all on inters and wets, as Remco a 109.4, 45 second improvement just puts him behind Yoda there.
He didn't have much choice but to go through at that lap. He couldn't do anything better because the rain is starting to come down now here halfway through qualifying. Cotters apparently has been disqualified from this session for parking in a dangerous location, and I'm not entirely sure what that's been as a result of there, but that's the AlphaTauri out of disqualifying. Vettel has retired,
and oh my goodness, there's an Alfa Romeo. That's Ruben. Alex Biddo's just had an off as well, and there was, just a lot of drivers struggling. DRS has just been disabled, so we have got that weather dynamic coming into play, and I don't think we're going to see any improvements. Yoda's just switched onto intermediate tyres, so whether he thinks he can improve on his time with those, as his teammate Cactus has had an issue coming out of turn 4. He is into the barrier. There's a Haas as well. Who's that? It's Hurricane facing the wrong way out of the final corner, so multiple people having issues right now. This helicopter shot just showing the Red Bull of Remco Van Putten darting past. Is he going again? Surely not.
This is going to be a very, very fun race. Once again, thank you to Raggy very much for the grade. Greatly appreciate that. It's going to be very dynamic. But I don't know if Remco Van Putten's going ahead here. Astrodite right now, not currently on a lap, it would seem. Everybody's kind of been equalized here. Gazieg, Liam, Cotters, all not able to get laps in.
Astrodite spun it. There's so much trouble for these drivers right now.
This really shows what can happen here in Zandvoort when you are on the wrong tires.
Yeah, people are having troubles left, right and centre. Remco's had an issue. I think we're going to see very few drivers come out of this pit lane, to be honest. After this, I think everyone is well and truly just going to pack it up, bring it into the pit lane. Most of the drivers out on track right now do appear to have damage. Although Sindarko is coming out on the inters, so interesting to see what he could do on those green tyres. See what he can do. I doubt he's going to be able to improve it on 108.9. It's almost impossible, surely, to do on the intermediate tyres.
This is going to be... I picked the weather, so I'm seeing what I have done right now. I am witnessing the conditions play very tricky on these racers, and we have 72 laps. 72 laps of racing coming ahead for this 20 driver grid. It's going to be fun. I'm very excited.
And see just how different these lap times will be. I think Sindarko is going to put on a little bit of a show for us and give us a display of how much slower even a fast driver is in the wet conditions compared to those on the dry. So 108.9 is his current best. What are we estimating on the intermediate tyres? As Luke's just retired from the session, all the drivers just retiring in the pits. They know they can't go much faster. Sundaku coming into sector 2 then. Over turn 8 into turn 9. His car does seem to be pretty planted. His setup working pretty well in both the dry and the wet conditions, it would seem. And as he comes down, obviously no DRS on this straight anymore due to the conditions, so that's going to hurt his time, and already he's almost 10 seconds down on his previous best time, and that's just as a result of the weather, the tyres, the lack of DRS coming now through into the final long right-hander of turn 15, that famous banked curve, and he's already well behind his previous best time, and it's 13 seconds that he's lost as a result of the weather.
Fraser in the chat pointing out a driver right now at this point that's already set a time on softs, which is, of course, the entirety of this grid, excluding 18, 19, and 20 there on your timing tower. But the only reason you'd want to be in the running right now on some intermediate compound tires is to get some laps in for wet conditions in the race. Now, that's a very good use of the time you have here. 4 minutes remaining, you can get quite a couple of laps, and Sindako right now is doing just that.
Yeah, obviously Park Firme is on, so none of these drivers can adjust their setups from here, but they might be able to tweak the front wing just a little bit. So maybe a few of them might be having a play with that if they think they've got a little bit too much or too little in the form of that front downforce. But I'm on board with Value right now, watching him go around, and his 108.4, 4/10 fastest than his teammate Alex Biddo. It's a very impressive qualification time, especially at the start of a qualifying session as well. And I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of watching Value drive, but to beat Alex Biddo by 4/10 is no mean feat in your first, or at least the first race I've ever seen. He's made a good first impression, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if you've ever seen
can
it.
definitely. Well, I can't recall, to tell you the truth, and I think that it's very nice to see people just jump on into the Discord, and you know, they want to go racing, they want to organize racing. We got lots of it, and so here we have Value in this Ferrari, just tearing away.
Yeah, it is. You just, if you're going to jump into a Discord and prove yourself, well, you may as well do it in style. And it's 4/10, huge gap between him and his closest rival. As we're seeing people come across the line, like Fraser said, and you said, there's no way anyone's going to beat their times on the Inters. Everyone who's still in the session has already set a time. But the top 5 are utilising this time to the fullest. They're going to be going at it the entire way around this session, it would seem. Only 2 minutes left in qualifying on our screens, but Luca Van Putten flying out of Sector 1. And I'm sure this is not the last we're going to see of this rain, as he goes a little bit wide and kicks up a slight bit of gravel. And I believe that's Alex Biddo in the Ferrari behind him. It is indeed the Spaniard.
His conditions have really worsened in the qualifying as well. I do feel as though the rain went from light to heavy now at this point in time. 1 minute and, a minute and a half remaining here. Sindako's pulled off to the inside coming down the hill. That's Microlander moving through in the Renault. And it's 7 drivers on this grid currently out. And just getting those laps in. Getting some time, practice around the circuit.
Alex Biddo just had a big hit with the wall through turn 15. His car's alright and he's coming into the pits, but I think, yep, that's enough for him. He doesn't want to risk anything else. happening to that Ferrari of his.
Another driver to talk about that we had a word about last week was Cactus, who's now, I think this is his 3rd appearance in the Endurance Series. And unlike most of the drivers in this roster, if you will, he is not somebody who participates in a regular basis in league racing. He just likes to drive the cars. So here we have him in this grid of absolute monsters. I have to say the gap right now on this grid is extremely tight. From the lead all the way down to Cactus, it is only 1.8 seconds. It's a short circuit. And, if you look closer at it, it's even tighter than that, down in 14th, 1.2. But yeah, Cactus, he'll be having his work cut out for him. And I think everybody on this grid is going to be having their work cut out for him. I think if they get through this race, they're going to walk away changed people.
Well, I think that with the conditions we're seeing now, with the information that I do have regarding the weather, I think that safety cars are definitely possible in this race, and I think getting to the finish line is going to be a pretty good way of scoring yourself some points if drivers aren't quite on their toes, and it is a long race as well, so this is going to be grueling for the drivers. They have got 72 laps of interchangeable conditions is all I know, so yeah, I think it's an appropriate event for these drivers on Halloween, as this session has come to a close. We're just waiting for those to presumably come back to the pits, as Michael Landa has a little bit of a aquaplane through turn 4, but it doesn't turn into a spin. He's going to have to get that car back to the pit lane.
Things are so very touch and go in these conditions as well, especially when you have another car. There's a different level of pressure I find personally when racing in wet conditions. When I have somebody in my rear or ahead of me, it's extremely tense. It's extremely tense because you don't know if he's going to brake too early. You don't know if the car is going to come into your rear, and it's just, for me, it's a level of anxiety. It's a level of pressure now. And we have these wet conditions in quali, just in, with the cars moving through. Now you're going to get into a race condition where you're going to have 20 congested cars heading down into turn 1. That entire first sector can be so tricky on a race start here in wet conditions. It is, if I'm not mistaken, going to be wet conditions at the beginning. So we could see either wet or intermediate compound tires. I'm not entirely sure on that end. But
Well, I think
17 drivers with times. It's pretty well everybody only got one run. That's another thing we have to take into consideration. Pretty well everybody only got one really good run in here. So there could be pace left all scattered throughout this grid.
Yeah, and I think the weather here has now, like you said, it's definitely worsened now from when it began about 5 minutes ago. And I think it wouldn't be far off to say that this is now wet weather tyres, not intermediate compounds. As we just saw Michael under their struggle for grip pretty much the entirety of the way around Zandvoort, but I'm just waiting on a couple of drivers. The session clock has ticked down to the end, and qualifying is indeed over. And now comes the real.
Yeah, this is where things get really, really intense. So why don't you take us through who is going to be lining up on this grid here at Unicorn?
Well, we got a Ferrari 1-2, that's for sure. It's Valu on pole position. Alex Spitto 4/10 behind him, but pretty close behind him it's Freeware. Then Sindaku in the Williams, Hurricane in the Haas, Mario Rossi in the other Williams, Yoda in the Mercedes, Remco Van Putten, Mike Rolanda, and Vettel round out the top 10. And we'll go through everyone else in just a moment when we get into that formation lap and we get to see what tyres everyone are starting this race on. Pretty much everyone qualifying on the soft. I think Luksha qualified on the mediums in 13th. I saw that, but it is wet. It's not as heavy as we saw at the end of qualifying. but it's definitely wet. And I want to say I can see intermediates on those tyres, but they are a little bit far away. Just in the right-hand side of the screen there.
Well, buckle up, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a very, very wild ride for this race. It is round 13, very unlucky number, if you will. We're here on Halloween. An entire full grid that voted to race Zandvoort, but what they did not vote for were the conditions. The conditions were decided by entirely random factors. So now we're here, and I just happen to know that things are going to get quite scary. I don't know where the good position to start this race is, given these conditions that are going to be coming up on the formation lap now. All of these drivers are going to get a real look for the conditions. They're going to get an idea of the spray as well.
Well, it is intermediates for everyone. It is light enough weather that we don't need to see those full wets yet. The track isn't wet enough either, but it's only going to get wetter as this rain continues to fall. You can see the raindrops falling, but got to go over the entire grid here. But like I said earlier, it's Valo on pole with his teammate Alex Biddo in second place, joining him on the front row. Then we have Freeware, Sindaku, Hurricane, Mario Rossi, Yoda, Remco Van Putten, Mike Lender and Vettel in the top 10. And outside the top 10, no free tyre trace given the intermediates. It's Gilles Kari, Astrodite in the two McLarens, Lutra in 13th in the Racing Point, Ruben and Jean, the two Alfa Romeos, in 14th and 15th respectively, Relapse in the Renault in 16th, Cactus in 17th, Borzieg in the Haas in 18th, Liam in 19th, and then Codders at the rear of this grid in 20th position. And Valu here has really shot off from the rest of the pack and is just now slowing up. The AI will shortly take control of that car to put it up onto the grid, and I'm sure chat's already talking on it that safety cars, wouldn't be surprised at all to see one lap one. Hopefully, the race start is as clean as can be, but Sector 1 in Zandvoort is touch and go at the best times, and, well, intermediate conditions, not exactly going to do the drivers any favours here, Shrift.
No, definitely not. Definitely not going to do the drivers any favors at all here. Of course, let us know in the chat, how many safety cars do you think we are going to see in this race? It is a 100% distance, 72 laps, of course.
Well, the last two drivers, you can see Codders assuming 20th position on that grid. Liam just ahead of him in 19th. And here we go, the lights are going out for us, but not for the drivers. The revs are increasing though. Gorzieg's had a jump start. You can see a few of the drivers at the back have had jump starts, but we are away here for the Dutch Grand Prix, and visibility is limited not just for the drivers but us as well. Alex Biddo seems to have got an absolutely brilliant start down into turn 1, looking on board with Sindaku. He's looking to get past Freeware. Remco Van Putten on the back of Mario Rossi. Mario Rossi on the outside going into turn 4. That's not where he really wants to be. He's going to try and get Hurricane around the outside. Visibility everywhere is limited. Remco a little bit of a shake, and behind him it's Microlander and Yoda. Yoda down 2 places on the start, trying to reclaim 1 from the Renault, and he's got back into 8th place. They were side by side for a considerable amount of time, but so far so good.
Very intense racing right now. Sindaku is very tight to the rear of Alex Biddo. Alex Biddo is in second position. Valley retaking that pole position from where he started. Freeware. Mario Rossi now wheel to wheel with Van Putten. No, that's Hurricane. That's Mario Rossi looking for 5th position from the Haas. They're wheel to wheel right now. Remco Van Putten has a beautiful view of this, but it's going to be the Williams on the outside. Does he get the move done? He has to take the runoff in through the gravel here, and this is going to give a lot of drivers a look and a possible position. There goes Yoda, there goes Microlander, as well as Remco Van Putten. So that defense, or that attack, however you want to look at it, cost him massively right now. Lutra taking advantage. The wheel-to-wheel coming on the exit out of the banking right now. Still in a drag race down into turn 1. This is very intense racing right now. Freeware is still very tight to the podium positions ahead, and we have a yellow flag through Sector 3 as drivers are coming into the pit lane now. That's Relapse and Gazieg both serving drive-through penalties after they jumped the start.
Yeah, unfortunate for them, we've had a few timing sequence bugs during this race week, but it's Freeware tight to the rear of Sindaku. These guys exchange positions on lap 1, and Freeware is looking to do the same again, just this time inheriting the position that he lost on that opening lap. But so far so good from all of the drivers, it would seem. Cottis might have had an issue. I don't think he got a drive-through penalty, but if he did, he's much further ahead of Relapse and Gorzier.
Hurricane in 5th position, in such a unique position here between Freeware and Remco van Putten. Remco van Putten, the Dutchman, I imagine, really wanting to win around here. This entire circuit is currently deadlocked, and everybody has no idea when these conditions are going to be changing. Yoda in that Mercedes, extremely tight to the Dutchman, looking for 6th position right now. Coming out of that banking, we see Value has moved ahead to take that fastest lap of 1:21.759. We have now just begun lap 3 in this race with 69 more to go.
Yep, Freeware and Sindaku, and Freeware just trying to go past into turn 1, but it's so tricky and these conditions aren't helping him at all. He's had to back out there, but they're side by side a little bit. It seems that further down the grid, yeah.
John and Jinakari having a fantastic battle. Very tight racing coming through turn 3. Now through 4. They're very tight right now. That's going to be John ahead of Jinakari. Jinakari has the Canadian driver of Liam looking at him in the Red Bull very closely as we move down the hill. And you can just look at the spray if you go on board with this Red Bull here. Coming off the rear of that McLaren, a little bit of a drift coming from Liam here. But the spray coming out of the rear tires of Jinakari is just blinding right now.
This is the trouble with any wet weather conditions, that they are going to throw it up, especially around a track like Zandvoort, where it's a pretty technical circuit. The flow around here is important. You've got to go from corner to corner smoothly, and when you're being blinded by the car in front, you're worried where the driver ahead is going to brake, whether they're going to brake a little bit earlier than you are. In the wets, it's a difficult thing to get right, especially when you're in one of these trains. If you're Liam, not only are you trying to get past Giancarlo ahead, and he's blinding you with the spray from his rear tyres, but you've just got to be careful. You don't want to brake too early to avoid the contact, because you've got Vettel behind you in a racing point, and he wants to do just the same to you as you want to do to the McLaren ahead. So it's a tricky situation for all of these drivers on the grid, but the 2 Ferraris up at the front seem to have taken a pretty good liking to this, and they've got a 1.4 second lead to Sindaku ahead, behind, and Valu's pulled up nearly 2 seconds to Alex Biddle behind, and that's pretty huge given that we've only been going for 3.5 laps here.
Yeah, one thing here with Freeware is he's extremely tight to Sindaku ahead in that final points, well, that final podium position fight for 3rd right there. And we have that train behind Remco van Putten. Remco van Putten really is not that far behind Hurricane right now. Hurricane kind of in his own little world at the moment. Remco not too far behind him. So meanwhile, we still have Liam tight to the rear of Giancarlo, coming through, out, heading into the penultimate turn. Now heading through into the banking. There's a car off, and I think that's Cotters. He has had a major off. He's in the gravel. He's got a good portion of damage on his front left right now. He's trying to get that car turned around, that Alpha Tauri.
Speaking of Alpha Tauri's, Freeware just got a big squeeze through turn 1 from Sindaku, trying to get past again through there. Giancarlo, I think. No, it's not. It's his teammate Astronaut who's tight to the rear of the Alfa Romeo of Ruben here. But Liam as well, still battling the McLaren of Giancarlo. This is all for just on-track position.
There's been an issue. Hurricane's had an issue on his way down the hill here. He's now dropped to 10th position. That's John, absolutely towering down in his rearview mirror. And we'll have to see if Jean's able to get that final points position away. I do not believe Hurricane has damage on that car.
Well, he'll be very fortunate for that if there's so many pit stops, as Liam and Shikali, they're going side by side down through turn 11, and Liam has picked his moment very wisely there and has picked up 12th place from the McLaren original Kari there, and he's going to be very happy he did, because he's now got a little bit of breathing room ahead and doesn't have to worry too much now. It seems he might be pulling away just a little bit coming through the final sector.
Microlander, half a second separating him and Yoda for P6 right now. Yoda is still sticking quite well with the Dutchman.
Is that Jean? No, it's Ruben.
What's happened there with Ruben?
Big slide coming out of the last corner. Manages to recover it pretty well though, and no damage, as Cactus flying past him down into turn 1.
Cactus with a massive carry of speed there, getting that 15th position clear. Things still heating up down in the midfield in that fight for 5th. The Dutchman defending 5th position quite well right now from Yoda, and by extension Microlander. Lutra is going to be looking to enter that, and this train is about to get a little bit longer. Meanwhile, we have Vettel, the Mexican driver. He's in the racing point, of course, hunting down Ginakari for 12th position. We saw, of course, Liam move ahead of Ginakari not too long ago.
Vettel's teammate Lutra is under heavy fire from Mario Rossi, and the Williams almost sneaking past, similar to how Liam got past Ginakari last lap, but Lutra managing to hold on to that 8th place for now. And Freeware's coming into the pits.
We were in the pits. There are a bunch of drivers are jumping into the pits. Is it time for the dry compound tires? Yes, Freeware has made the call. So, Freeware, the first in here to look for medium compound tires.
This is going to hurt Alex Bitter if this is the right time to come in, because he can't come in this lap, or else he's going to get double stacked behind his teammate. So
that was a very quick change from this grid. A very quick change from this grid. In the split second, there goes Mario Rossi coming down through turn 2. He's had a big spin. Gazieg just took 5 seconds for speeding into the pit lane. Now Mario Rossi gets things turned around. Astrodite's coming through. We'll see if he catches up with the Williams, but I think that Mario is going to get out. He's missing that front left end plate. But within a split second, we've seen almost the entirety of this grid make the switch to dries.
Oh, someone's made a big error, and it's Cactus. He's coming for inters. And look how quickly this track is drying, and it's leaving that Mercedes for dead, as Freeware and Liam didn't come into the pit lane, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Alex come in behind his teammate. Even though it's not optimal, it is going to be the Ferrari coming in. How bad is it going to be? It's not terrible. It's going to be a few seconds lost, but he's got a few seconds to spare to the car behind. But where is he going to come out in relation to Freeware, who was the first to come in? Where is Alex?
The big call here is, and I love this, is look at the softs, look at the mediums. Nobody knows what tires to be on because there's still more weather coming in this race. For those that are tuning in, that is not the end of the rain. And if the drivers aren't aware of it, well, I'm making them aware of it. There's going to be quite a few pit stops in this race, and there's going to be one heck of a difference in position changes at the end of it as well. Microlander under major threat right now. That's Lutra on softs versus mediums. A little bit of contact between the two as they make their way down the hill.
Yeah, these guys super tight, and that first pit stop already having an impact on this race. Alex Bitter down into 5th place. He's going to want to climb back through the ranks here. It's also worth pointing out, if people have put on maybe a wet setup, whereas people might have a more dynamic setup, we're not going to see where that comes into play as well, just on raw pace. And look how much time Alex Bitter's lost as a result of that pit stop to Avalu up at the front. He's about 2 seconds behind now. That gap is much faster.
Under major threat here, Alex Bitter just clears the Dutchman very fast heading down into turn 1. Remco Van Putten actually has a look at the inside, perhaps to spook Alex Bitter here. Ginakari looking very fast as well in that McLaren, currently in P10. He's set the fastest lap, but Astrodite comes in just a little bit quicker. Vettel now, as the times start to come through on the dry compound from the soft runners, a 1:12.910, currently the fastest lap. Now we've had a yellow flag pop up through sector 3, just coming out of the banking there. I do believe that is
Hurricane in the Haas.
Microlander extremely tight to the rear of Lutra right now. Lutra on the softs is looking to hunt down Yoda next.
Yeah, it's interesting that Microlander is able to hold such great pace compared to the Racing Point, despite the fact that he's on the so-called slower compound of tyres. Also, it's mediums versus softs, and both sets are fresh, so you would imagine that Lutra's softs would have heated up and are much more optimal right now, but the runner of Microlander clinging onto the rear of that Racing Point very nicely right now, as Sindaku and Alex Biddo, they're exchanging positions for P3. Alex Biddo continuing his climb back towards the front of this grid. The Ferrari started this race in second, held it for a long time, but that double stack in the pit stop has cost him big time here, and he's dropped down into fifth and now back into third after battling his way through.
One thing to talk about here, as the battling is really focused down between Lutra and Yoda, and as well as Alex and Sindako, but one thing to really take into consideration here is the fact that there's a lot of different setups being ran on this race, as Alex Biddo has had an issue, it would seem, dropping him into fifth position. Sindako and Remco Van Putten third and fourth now. Alex is under major threat. There goes Yoda. Alex with the defensive move now. Yoda to the inside, coming down into the right-hander. Yoda eating that curbing. These drivers have a little bit more liberty in the Endurance Series with the regular corner cutting. It's a very long race. We want things to be a little bit fun for them, of course. Not just competitive, but fun at the same time. Alex Biddo defending for his life right now from the Albanian, and Yoda can't wait around. He has Lutra breathing down his neck on these softs.
Yeah, and I think that you can see it there coming through that final corner, or the penultimate corner. The drivers can just use that outside curbing, and I think around Zandvoort that's a very relieving feeling. It's a fairly easy circuit to avoid most penalties on, but that one corner in particular can be quite annoying. And like you said, Lutra tied on the rear of Yoda. The soft tyres versus the mediums. It looks like he's tried to go on the outside, but there just wasn't room between the Mercedes and the edge of the track, and that's going to cost Lutra just a tiny bit of time to the Mercedes ahead, who is still...
Microlander on the inside, a little bit of a brush with Lutra as Lutra gets away, but Microlander has shown his hand, and I wanted to say Lutra holding back on that move, or that potential move heading down the hill there. I've seen him do that before, and I think it was the lesson learned for him the last time, so perhaps really taking his time here. It's a long, long race.
Yeah, and you don't want to end it with a spin. We've already seen Alex Biddo have a few unfortunate events. He's been second to fifth to third to fifth again, and now it's Lutra getting passed by Microlander down the start-finish straight. Not a lot that the Racing Point could do, but it is the softs. Can the traction of those fresh Red Bull tyres give him the exit he needs? It doesn't look well, that's going to be the case coming down towards turn 4. It looks like Microlander has had a lock-up into the left-hander, but Lutra not quite being able to capitalise at the moment, still sitting in 8th place, and Alex Biddo is getting prepped and ready to overtake Remco Van Putten for the second time in about 3 laps. So we'll have to wait and see who is first to squeeze past their rival.
One thing to talk about is softs versus mediums. I can confirm heavy rain is on the horizon for these racers. Which tires are going to be the best tire to be on until the rain comes? Are the softs going to make it the distance, or are these medium runners going to luck out, or is it going to be the hards that make it the distance? That is the big questions.
Well, no one's on the hard, so I don't think we're going to see too much of an answer in response to that question, but the mediums versus the soft, that definitely is a battle we're seeing. We've got the top 7 all on mediums, and Lutra there on the softs in 8th, breaking up the top 9. on those tyres. But it's very interesting, like you said, if we've got more rain on the horizon, that being on the softs could be a gamble. If they make it, excellent. And if they don't, and you have to be forced to pit again for maybe just 5 laps of fresh softs, that could cost you big time in a race as dynamic as this, as Alex Bideau looking to sneak up the inside of the Remco van Putten coming down into turn 12, and it's the Ferrari up into P4 again in this race.
That was a jaw-dropping move from Alex Bideau there. The Dutchman not going to be too impressed. He's going to have another run, though. He's going to have another crack. Coming out of the banking here in P5 now, the Red Bull. On these medium compound tires, 1 lap older than Alex. He has that DRS. He's not utilizing too much of that battery. Alex breaks off to the left side. Now it's the Dutchman down the inside, wheel-to-wheel for these two. It is the Red Bull versus the Ferrari. Alex Bideau holding to the outside right now. This is going to give, of course, Remco the outside coming around this second banking section, or the first banking section of the lap, I should say, but that is going to be Alex Bideau holding on to 4th. Meanwhile, Astrodite and Liam has gotten ahead into 11th position on the McLaren. Now Liam looking to make, well, 6.6 seconds ahead to Gianakari, but Gianakari has other plans. He doesn't want to be holding out in 10th for too long. John ahead of him in 9th is under serious threat here, and there's battles all over this circuit.
And it's crazy. We're already on lap 14 of this endeavour. Obviously, many more to go, but it's a substantial amount of battling, like you said. And it's what we love to see in these endurance races, that we've got anyone who wants to be here from the MRL community coming in, and you still get these tight battles. Obviously, some of these drivers we do see on a regular basis, but some of them not so much. And it's Michael looking at the rear of Yoda, as well as Cactus under pressure from Hurricane. And Hurricane's made the move.
I just saw Remco van Putten. I was riding along with him for a moment there, as it looks like Cactus has had an issue. I'm trying to get him back in the session right away here, but tons of battling happening on this circuit. But it was Remco van Putten, big lunge into turn 1, didn't get the move done on Alex Bideau. It was a day late and $1 short, but we'll see what happens here between Liam and Astrodite now. Astrodite has been fighting quite hard to maintain this 11th position. Liam wanted to get on to better things, going to hunt the other McLaren, but Astrodite has much better plans in mind for the McLaren squad.
Michael on the rear of Yoda. Is he going to get the run? He's got DRS enabled on the Mercedes ahead of him. Can he get moved on into the inside of turn 7? Such a short run. It's so hard to get that exit you need out of turn 11. You really need to be side by side coming through the corner and out of it to be able to get anywhere close to being.
Oh, and there goes Luketra coming out of the penultimate turn into the banking. A massive crash for him in that racing point is going to see him with major damage. This is going to be Astrodite coming through now. That's Luketra being passed by Liam as well. Vettel, his teammate for this occasion. I do believe Relapse is not too far behind now. And that is almost certainly going to be Luketra into this pit lane. A massive amount of damage on that front right. 5 seconds in the pit lane as well.
That is beyond unfortunate for him, but we said a mistake is costly in an event like this, but it also can be negated by the fact that if there is a safety car, you might get the opportunity to come back, and with the interchangeable weather conditions, I should think there's more than an opportunity. And your earlier question was proposed to the chat, and 86% of those who voted said that the mediums are the tyre to be on right now. So we'll have to see whether chat is right in relation to that decision, but the soft runners right now, all behind, though, or the bulk of those on the mediums. The mediums dominating the top 8 right now.
This could all come down to setups as well. I think that these mediums are really performing well for these racers. You look at these drivers on the softs. I'm not saying the softs are performing bad by any means, but there's a ton of traffic, a ton of very evenly matched guys right now. You've got battles all through the field. Liam right now, the most notable one with Astrodate. They have been deadlocked. Astrodate inheriting a position, of course, into the points as a result of Luketra's issue. Now Luketra's on fresh softs. Luktra has the freshest tires of this entire grid. And one thing to talk about is that we still have 20 racers on this grid, even as Cotter's, as unfortunate as it is, he has been struggling in this race, but he is still participating, and that's something you love to see. Just coming out of the pit lane, he's on some fresh softs in the Alpha Tower. He had that issue very early on. Now Microlander, of course, still half a second on the rear of Yoda.
Yeah, like I said, Cotter's, you love to see that someone like that, he's so far behind right now, but if there are a safety car or two, as someone else has had an issue, it's one of the Avataris. Is it Cotter's again? It is. He's facing the wrong way in turn 4. And that could be his race over if he can't get this car spun around. He has been disqualified from the session. That's unfortunate to see. We've hit him with a bit of a commentator curse there.
Yeah, meanwhile, Microlander had a very smooth move on Yoda. Wheel-to-wheel exchange through turn 1. Was very, very beautiful to see. Microlander now in 6th position. He's going to have Yoda looking for that position back very, very soon here.
Yeah, so Cotter's does become the first. Well, he's not a retirement. He's been disqualified by the game for his actions there. But he said Yoda on the back of Microlander, but Vettel and Liam have exchanged positions, and it's the Red Bull looking at the inside down through turn 11. He's very tight on the inside, and as a result, Vettel's able to just carry the speed around the outside to keep his car positioned ahead of Liam in the hard charging ball behind him. But this battle still raging on.
Some of the racing that we're seeing, some of these, cat and mouse chases have been absolutely fantastic. There goes Cotter's now leaving the session. Very unfortunate to see his race finish this early, and it is very early. Lap 19 as Yoda's had a massive issue in the Mercedes. He's had a snap of oversteer. Now he's had to really, really watch himself as he gets back onto the circuit. He's got a good portion of that front left wing missing. Fast movers coming through now. There goes the McLaren and Racing Point. Now Liam as well has dispatched Yoda. Oh no.
That's so tough to watch. He was in such a good battle, and there's a Red Bull flying off in the background of the shot. It's Liam. He's now got no damage, surprisingly, on the Red Bull, but we're on board with, I want to say, Vettel on the Racing Point. You've just seen this huge slide come out the Red Bull of Liam in through the gravel trap, but he's managed to persist. Yoda gets past by Liam, obviously no damage on the Red Bull, allowing him to pass a very, very heavily damaged, wounded Mercedes.
John is hunting down Jinkari right now on the pit straight. Jinkari with a move to the inside, now back to the outside. He has a very good lead ahead of John into the turn, takes that optimal line through, but John is hunting him down, and this is where we're starting to see these softs. We're 12 laps in. What is the pace like on softs versus mediums? It is a 100% distance endeavor, and it's not what you'd normally see in a 50%. So these tires can go a significant distance longer before they go off the cliff, and John right now on these mediums has done quite well. He's in 8th position on mediums, but these drivers on softs are starting to catch things up for the moment. So we'll see where Jinkari is able to catch himself up to for the time.
Yeah, he's inherited a fair few positions in the last few laps as a result of others' mistakes, and in a race as long as this, those mistakes can be quite numerous by the end of it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more drivers make slip-ups. We're only, just over a quarter of the way through this whole event, and Jinkari proving there that despite the fact that you may be behind someone for a little bit, one slip up from one of the other drivers is going to net you a few positions. And to finish first you have to finish, and that's a little bit tougher in these endurance races that we watch than the 50% races that we are used to seeing, as Relapse and Liam, they're going toe-to-toe down into turn 1. The Renault on the outside of the Red Bull. Can he hold the speed he needs to keep the position from the Red Bull? It's Liam coming back through, up the inside and through turn 3, but that gives Relapse the inside through the left-hander of turn 4. A very nicely put together move from the Renault, but he's not out of the woods yet. It's still Liam on his gearbox, very tight to the rear of that Renault, looking to try and find a way past. But Relapse still managing to just cling to 11th place, as both of them looking very low on the ERS, and it's a Williams.
Sindako has had a massive issue coming out of that final banking, that final turn. He's headed straight into the pit lane here. He's on the medium compound tires. We'll have to see what he does here. He is looking at red tires in that pit lane, so he's going to get in for some softs and a wing change here. He's going to lose a massive amount of positions, and it looks like some of these drivers, it's been very dynamic. We saw Yoda with the issue. He had to come in for fresh softs. Now Sindako and these drivers in the front running positions in these hard charging battles are starting to have issues. Jinakari has had one heck of a race, considering he has netted Jinkari 5 positions from where he began. Jean behind him in 7th has made up 8 spots. Remco and Microlander are both up 4 from where they began this race. Alex Widow started in 2nd. He's dropped back into 3rd. Freeware was in 3rd. He made it into 2nd. And Valu has maintained pole position in lead of this race.
Yeah, and it looks, is there a Haas, or is that one of the rear runners that scores the egg letting past the front runners there? Obviously, blue flags in effect in these 100% races, and there's drivers all over the track right now in various different places on various different strategies, and strategy is key when it comes to this. And now
these endurance races have been very key for strategy. Very, very key for strategy.
Sector 1, there's an issue. It's one of the Mercedes. It's not Yoda, which means it has, unfortunately, been Cactus, who's just getting off of the track there to avoid having contact with one of the Williams. But he's got significant damage. It's a terrible place to do it as well, because he's got to go the whole lap with that damaged front wing, which is going to cost him even more time.
So much battling through this first stint. Well, it's actually, technically speaking, the second stint. For those just tuning in, we've already seen these drivers come off of intermediate compound tires. As you can see, they're all on 15, 16, 14 lap old dry compound tires now. We're here on lap 24. Weather on the horizon. Rain is coming. Will it be heavy? Will it be light? Well, we'll have to see what the tires are going to be picked by these drivers. Because, well, we've seen such a shuffle in strategy for a few of these racers. Lutra, Yoda, Sindako now all on very fresh rubber, as Jinakari and Jean now coming down through turn 1. That's going to be Jean ahead of the McLaren into P6. He's on those medium compound tires. We've been seeing them dance around the circuit, deadlocked for a couple laps, and there goes John pulling the trigger. He's now into 6th position, so well done from him. Jinakari, though, still having a very good drive for what I would consider his MRL debut uniform.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen him in anything else. So MRL debut, and he's doing pretty well. It's been a good time over the past few weeks for MRL debuts. We've been pretty impressed, I'd say, by most of the drivers that we've seen in the last 3 weeks or so. We saw Cactus debut. I want to say we saw someone debut during the week as well, as a few drivers fresh to the grids elsewhere, and we've been impressed with the likes of those, as Jean has a big trip to the gravel, and it looks like he's going to fake it to the pit stops, but he's just cutting across to the right hand side of the track to bait the McLaren. But it is the McLaren on the soft compound tyres, still very viable after 17 laps, it would seem. Back up into P6 through turn 1. Up the inside, very nicely done. And he's held the position all the way around turn 4. And it's a tricky place to overtake past turn 5. Realistically, going side by side from here at such a high speed, the elevation change as well just makes it a little bit unsettling. But there it is. This time, it's Jinakari's turn to go into the gravel.
Yeah, he's also having a bit of an issue now. These guys are under absolute pressure, and so is Aphrodite. He has Sindako on those fresh softs just charging in his rearview mirrors. I think we're going to see a move very soon here as we come through into the DRS straight. Let's take a look at the traction. Look at the charge coming out of that Williams now. He's going to have the inside into the right-hand turn at the end of the straight, and that's going to be Sindako clear through ahead of Aphrodite. Luke's on the rear of Ruben as well, and he is looking quite closely at the South African now around the outside. There goes the racing point with the aerial shot from my end. Very neatly done from Luktra into 14th position. John now and Jinakari coming down through turn 1. This is where we've seen them do the tango for some time now. How's it going to go coming out of turn 3 is the big question.
Yeah, through turn 4, it's still the McLaren ahead of the Alfa Romeo. And Jinakari gonna cling on to P6. He'll want to get out of DRS range, but if my eyes aren't deceiving me, it does look like it might be getting a little darker above Zandvoort here. I don't think there are many rain clouds yet, but I don't think it'll be too long until we see a few more rolling in.
Been a cracking race here so far, and we're only just getting started. We aren't even halfway through it. We've got rain coming, potentially more dry weather on the horizon after the rain. It's going to be one heck of a race for these guys. We're 27 laps in. Of course, if you're just tuning in, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for spending your Halloween with us. And of course, my name is Striffium here from Canada. We have Unicorn from the UK. Jean now around the outside is joining us as well. Looking for a move on Jinakari coming down through turn 1 right now. Jinakari on the curbs right now. He's having a good time. We'll have to see if John's able to do something. But yes, of course, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the stream, help us out. Hit that follow button. We greatly, greatly appreciate that. You're not seeing notifications pop up on screen right now just because we have had to, well, change a couple of things over for our stream this week due to connection issues. But thank you so much for being here with us. We greatly appreciate it. And this race is starting to heat up now as we've got yellow flags popping up in 2 different portions of the circuit. What has happened? There goes John, a big kick out from that car on the hunt of Jinakari, and that's going to give Vettel the smell of blood in the water.
Well, I want to say the first one was... It was Gauzy Egg, the first yellow flag caused. He had a big trip out of turn 4, and he's had another one coming through sector 2. He's gone a little bit wide as a result of that wing damage that he sustained during that incident, and he's having a little bit of trouble letting past one of the faster cars on track right now. Obviously, he is a back marker at this stage in the race. And there's another issue. It is Yoda. He's had a problem through turn 11. He's in the barrier again. He's missing a portion of that front wing. It's the left-hand side again. I do believe that's what we saw him damage out of turn 4 about 6 laps ago, according to his tyres.
He is going to be very upset in that position. Gazieg has taken a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he will be on his way out now with a set of... What tires is he going to be jumping onto? I imagine he's getting a wing change as well. Going to be going on to some soft compound tires. Yoda into the pit lane. Sindako is on the rear of Vettel quite closely as well. 15 lap difference on the rubber. Sindako being on the better end of that stick.
Yeah, he's been behind him for pretty much a lap now, and it's very fresh softs.
On the inside, heading down through into turn 1 now. Is Jinakari going to have an answer for this? He gets a little bit of that inside curb. Not the best exit the McLaren's had in this race here so far, but he is on these soft compound tires, and at some point those mediums are going to yield a little bit more life The big question is, at what point?
Yeah, but they don't have more life than Sindaku's tyres. Just behind them, he's on very fresh softs, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get past in a similar fashion to the way he just passed Vettel. Also, Liam got past Mario Rossi. They're in a similar situation, so the soft tyres that are 20 laps old still are holding their own in this race. They're managing to continue on, and Sindaku is just crushing the gap between himself and Jinankari here. It's lap 30 as Valu has crossed across the line way ahead of the rest of the grid. Freeway has split over 3.5 seconds, and then Alex Bido 12.5. Not been the greatest race for the Spaniard, but here we go. The battle for 6th place is still on, and Jinankari not going to get that place done down into turn 1, but he is going to get it out of it, I think, as Jean has had a big slide. It's cost Jinankari a lot of time, and it's the Williams of Sindaku watching this very closely. He's looking around the outside of turn 4. I don't think it's going to happen through the corner, but as they approach turns 5 and 6, it's the Williams side by side with the McLaren coming down towards the right-hander of turn 8. And it is Sindaku up into 7th place after Jean's little slip up there cost Jinankari big time. And
Liam and Mario are also wheel to wheel now. Mario getting ahead of Liam now. We saw them exchanging not too long ago. Jinankari and Vettel are wheel to wheel right now. It's the McLaren on the outside heading into the next turn. That is going to be the racing point ahead, just through into the braking. Sindaku hunting down Jean quite closely. It's a very, very serious tire differential for these racers, and that Williams is looking very fast, hunting down the drivers ahead on this grid right now. Look at the speed coming out of this banking, but something else you can see quite clearly as they come out of this banking is the clouds in the sky, and they are getting darker here.
yeah, indeed, it's very evident that more rain is on the horizon. More position changes through turn 1. We've got these two little battles going on. It's for 6th and for 8th. And there's a yellow flag. It's a Red Bull. It's Liam, who's had a big spin coming into the final turn. The banked curve, obviously a little bit of a different camber to what most corners are like on the F1 calendar. But it's the Red Bull into the pit lane, presumably for some fresh mediums. Maybe those old ones, those old softs starting to just lose that grip. 21 laps is a fair amount of time. Obviously the tyres scaling here compared to what we would usually see, and there's another issue. It's Cactus. He's pointing the wrong way out of the Audi S. That's turn 13, and he's spun that car back round. But oh, it's getting interesting now. Everyone's struggling. It is very close to approaching the halfway point, so usually these drivers would be getting ready to take that checkered flag, go home, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, but here they've got to go around all over again, and then some, because we aren't halfway through yet.
Look at the weather conditions changing. Look at how quickly things have come in for these racers. Things have gotten dark very fast, and Remco Van Putten is in 4th, hunting down Alex Widow quite tight. Neither of these drivers can make any mistakes in this hunt for podium position. Vettel is within a second of Jean ahead, looking at 7th. Of course, Vettel is on the faster tires, or is he? It's the softs versus mediums at 24 laps for a good portion of the racers on this grid. Gaps have spaced themselves out quite significantly, and guess what, Unicorn? The rain is here.
Yeah, the first few drops are starting to show themselves, and this is what those soft runners have presumably been waiting for. The medium runners, they probably want it to hold off for just a few more laps, but it depends how quickly this rain starts to settle on the track. Rain is one thing, a wet track is another, and it takes a little bit of time, and you see it fairly frequently where drivers in wet weather races starts to see the raindrops and they react too quickly. They think this is now the time for intermediate tyres, and that can cost them. The intermediate tyres on the wrong point of time can really slow you down and ruin a race if you put them on too early. So it's a difficult decision. DRS being disabled is usually the telltale sign for when it's time to switch over, and I'm sure we will see that in probably 3 or 4 laps time, given how short the lap is around here.
Things looking real gloomy here. Very, very gloomy. Vettel is still hunting down John. I've been following along with this as it was the tightest fight to follow. And I have to say, Vettel's been doing a good job of kind of slowly reeling him in here. And now we've had a couple of drivers up at the front jump into the pit lane. There goes Alex Bitto in for intermediate compound tires. Remco Van Putten has made that call as well. We'll have to see what happens here between Valu and Figueroa ahead. Could this be the right call?
Oh, there's been a huge crash. Jin Carley lost it out of the final corner and he collected Vettel, and Vettel managed to just collect himself into the pit lane. But that was very, very problematic. And it was not Jin Carley, it was Gian. Those two guys been battling all race and they got very similar names. But there we are. And oh, look how heavy the rain's getting already, Striff. It's gone from light rain to heavy rain in about 30 seconds.
I don't think the inners were the right call here, Unicorn. I do not think the intermediate compound tires were the right call. Remco Van Putten certainly probably agrees right now, as he has had a big slide. And things are very wet on the circuit right now, and there is a virtual safety car deployed. Who is that as a result of?
Well, Freeway left a little bit of wing out on the track. And he's going for the inters as well, but he definitely knew the mediums were at the time, to be honest. I think Cactus...
Vettel is missing an entire front right end plate right now and a good portion of that wing. And I think that it may... I don't know who sparked the VSC, but it may have been Vettel. He was quite slow. Astrodate is very close to his rear coming through the turn now. And we are back to green flag racing. Astrodate up the inside now. Vettel with damage.
Yeah, the McLaren making that move nice and easily against the damaged car. And Sinbaku is still on socks. There he is. He's coming to the bits finally. And we've had another issue coming out of Cactus, damaging his front wing again. I don't think
is Sindaco getting on? He's getting on intermediate compound tires as well, and I don't think this is the right call.
Well, I think right now that the Inter's
Vettel tired
in the pit lane. It's had such a good race. It's a shame to see that coming out of him. Yoda, soft tires for the Mercedes before. Now he's going on to Inters. And I think the Inters are the right call for the time being, but I don't think it's going to be too long until we see all these drivers have to hop into the pits again for wets.
This is really shaking things up. There isn't a single gap beneath 1 second right now. Everybody is struggling. Cactus is taking penalties. That's another thing here. Penalties are going to play a role as Vettel has retired.
Well, I'll tell you someone who doesn't seem to have struggled at all throughout this race. Valu. He has been on top form throughout this entire endeavour, and I'd hate to drop him with the commentator's curse right now, so I won't say too many nice things, but on his debut, we do believe, very, very strong performance from the number 5 Ferrari, so I'm sure he can be happy with how he's handled himself so far in today's race, and I should think come the end of this race he'll be thinking the same thing, as we are at the halfway mark.
Finally at the halfway mark, we've got some pretty wet conditions right now. Things are looking like they're getting quite heavy for these racers. Everyone on those intermediate compound tires right now. Things are starting to tighten up. Everybody coming to terms with what's going on circuit in reference to the rain. And of course, it's Mario Rossi hunting down John for the final points position that is seemingly on offer right now. The gap is less than 1 second between these two.
Well, it's everyone but Cactus. Cactus seems to agree with you, Striff. He has gone on to the wet compound of tyre. So he thinks it is damp enough, and Yoda's got a 5-second time penalty as well for spinning in the pit lane. Is he going to follow suit with his teammate? Do Mercedes know a little bit more than the rest of the grid? He is also going on to that wet weather tyre, and we go on board with Mario Rossi. Obviously not quite tight enough to the rear of that Alpha to be getting the full brunt of the mist, but even then you can still see how heavy this rain is and how difficult these conditions are. These drivers are going to be wrestling their cars to get them around, and if the inters are the wrong tyres, then it's going to be particularly difficult. But no one so far seems to be struggling so much on the inters. Obviously it's difficult, but we'll have to see how Yoda performs over the coming laps as to whether...
The gap for Yoda right now from 17th to... And here's one thing about Yoda, and I do believe Cactus as well as Hurricane Liam, Ruben, Gazieg, Yoda, and Cactus have all been lapped in this race.
I think so. Cactus coming back onto used inters, and Yoda is having a huge amount of issues, so I don't think it is time for the wets. He's struggling big time in that Mercedes on those wets.
I'm sorry, I have to. It's a very Germany 2019-esque performance coming out of the Mercedes camp right now. I mean, not quite true to reality, but it's interesting, to say the least. And I am admittedly a Ferrari fan, so I'm quite happy with how things are going for the Scuderia at the moment, considering the leader of this race. But there is a yellow flag popping up through Sector 3. We'll have to see what's going on there. It looks like the Mercedes of Yoda is really not too thrilled with these wet compound tires right now at all.
No, he is super struggling on those as Mario Rossi still tight to the rear of the Alfa Romeo. His teammate Sindaku putting pressure on the car ahead of him as well, and that's relapsed in the Renault. But
Yoda is very slow on the pit straight right now in this car.
he's coming for more wets.
He hasn't even come into the pit lane. What has happened to the Albanian?
I am beyond confused.
I am very confused here. Sindako hunting down relapse. Here's something to talk about. Less than 2/10 now between these two. Sindako, he looked to the inside, got onto the rear of that Renault, following him through. But now, who's going to have the better run on the exit? It looks like it was going to be Sindako, but these wet conditions, for starters, I'm on board with him, and I can barely see anything.
Yeah, relapses the car. Really is just chucking up all of the water from underneath it, but Williams doing very well to stick to the rear, and he's got a decent run out of turn 1, but there's no way that you can be battling side by side in these conditions through turns 2 and 3. So you really have to pick and choose your moments even more, because it's harder, because there's no DRS anymore, and that really aids the overtaking here on what is a pretty difficult circuit to overtake.
Such a tight gap, half a second, and you're in these wet conditions. Here's the move to the inside for Sindako now. He snapped it to the inside as soon as Relapse followed that line, and Relapse essentially opened the door for him there. Sindako holding well in 8th position for the time being. Fighting creates opportunity, and John is catching up as a result of this battling between Sindako and Relapse. And we'll have to see how long Relapse is able to hold on. Sindako has been showing quite strong pace in this race so far. And the yellow flag popping up through turn 1, I do believe that was a pass. Not entirely sure which one right now. That was Gazieg. Perhaps something happened there.
I think so, Yoda.
Mario Rossi half a second behind John as well. So things are starting to tighten up in this fight for the final few points positions.
And everyone just... They're going to be thinking that they just got to get to the end of this race. It's so rough out there right now. There is a lot of rain coming down on the track. We know it's not quite time for the full wets, but I'm sure those on the intermediates are starting to feel the effect of the rain. And Yoda is still just trundling around on those wets. He is having an appalling middle section of this race. He is not going to be happy with how this event has gone at all.
6 stops for Yoda and Cactus over at Mercedes. So 12 trips for the 2 Mercedes cars between them to the pit lane for the Mercedes squad in this race. Not a single other driver on this grid has over 4. The only one that's currently driving with 4 is Hurricane.
Well, at least the pit crew really earning their wages down at Mercedes garage, and it looks like Yoda might have even stopped. He is going 12 miles an hour now. What is the Albanian up to? He's letting people pass, but at the same time, that's a very, very long way to go about it, as Jean has closed up significantly on the rear of Relapse and is ready and waiting to pounce. And it's the Williams and Mario Rossi crumbling through one of the sponsorship barriers at the side of the track.
These Mercedes cars are really struggling here in these wet conditions.
And Yoda's into the pits.
You know, I think it's... Oh no, Cactus has been disqualified. What has happened to him then? So, Cactus has been removed from the session for disqualification. That's 2 drivers disqualified now. That is Cotter's first. Now Cactus. Vettel's retired. So we've got 17 out of 20 drivers remaining here. Jean still on that hunt for P9 as Relapse has a bit of a slip on the rear on the exit of the banking. Is this going to give Jean the run? He's utilizing that battery. No DRS, of course. But it is not enough to get that move in any situation on the Renault just yet. But it does give him a good exit. And he is quite close, so we'll have to see what he can do with that good run here. Down through turn 3. That is very scary.
Whilst these guys are battling, ahead of them Yehuda's just whacked on a fresh set of wets. And if wets are the right tyre for now, a few people in chat think it is. Don't know if it's quite time to switch over, but what was the problem before? As a few others agree with Yoda, Luke, Hurricane and Liam, that gagged their cars coming into the pit lane in 12th through 14th. They're all onto the fresh wet, so... As there's a huge crash, who is that? It's the Mercedes of Yoda on the outside. So I don't think it is time for wets just yet. It's definitely close. It's definitely close. But is it time? I think it's a tough call. Interesting to see what the leaders of this race do. Gauzieg's coming in.
He's always had a little bit of a brush with the wall on the exit out of the banking now. That's going to compromise his run on Relapse. Yellow flags, but we haven't had any full safety cars. We had the VSC, but no full safety cars yet. I imagine there's a few people on this grid that would like to see it. Lutra, Hurricane, and Liam have all come in for full wet compound tires. Yoda has retired from the session now. He did so in the pit lane, I believe. Now his car is having a little bit of fun on the exit, but still Jean very tight to Relapse. Very tricky bit of circuit here for these drivers to do battle. Things are absolutely in a complete downpour right now.
Yeah, you can see off of the racing line, it's super, super damp. And both Relapse and Jean have just taken a trip off of that dry line, and I think Mario Rossi is ready to pick up the scraps. Remco Van Putten and Microlander have hopped into the pit lane to get onto some fresh wets as well. So we are at that crossover point. Neither of the Ferraris currently running in first and third have hopped into the pits. Alex Biddo, though, has dropped off fairly significantly, not only from his teammate but from Freeware as well, who has been holding on pretty well to that second place since Alex Biddo had his issues earlier on in this race. But as a result, Alex would be able to pit without fear of the double stack. Here comes Valu.
Relapse just took 5 seconds. Valu's into the pit lane now. How's this going to go for him? Remco Van Putten. Valu is having one heck of a drive. One heck of a drive. Freeware out behind him. It's going to be a significant amount. Alex Biddo into the pit lane. Nutra has retired from the session. He's in the pit lane. This rain has been massive and absolutely has thrown a massive dynamic into this race for, at the very least, 5 of these racers, those that have retired. Just look at the spray coming off these cars.
Yeah, it's huge. You can see the puddles as well there. Pretty much mirrors now on the off of the dry line in certain places. You can really start to see the grandstands, the advertisements being reflected off the track. That is absolutely drenched out there. We are now in fairly torrential conditions, 45 laps into this race, and there's still tight racing going on everywhere. Striff. Around this track, we've got Jean so close to the relapse, and he can barely see the Renault he's fighting ahead of him, but nonetheless, he is doing just that, and this is for the final points position. Well, P9 is up for grabs as well, as Carly is just ahead of them.
Such intense racing right now. There goes Relapse and John in a very tight exchange coming through the banking turn. Vinakari up ahead of them is within reach right now. Jean absolutely hunting down this Renault as we make our way down the hill. This is where things can get quite tricky, and look at the rain coming down. Look at the spray coming down into Jean's face. Things are so intense between these two. I would be losing my mind behind the wheel of that right now, because you have no idea what Relapse is going to do, when he's going to hit the brakes. Things are so tight. You have very little vision to really give you that depth you need. Mario Rossi now and Sindaco have exchanged. Mario Rossi is still out here on these intermediate compound tires, as there goes John around the outside as we make our way into the next right-hand turn here. Into 10th position, he has dispatched the Renault. Quite a neat move.
Well, you know why. It's going very slow. He's letting past the fast car off. Well, it's one of the Ferraris. I do believe that's Valu. But yeah, Mario Rossi got passed by his teammate. You'd have thought that would have been a pretty good indication that it's time to get off of the Inters. But he's staying out on those green walls tyres, as is Astrodite. And you have to think to yourself, these guys are losing so much time. Why are they not coming in? Why is that call not being made for either of these drivers? Ruben as well, down in 14th place. Less to lose for him though. He's not in the points as of right now, but he's still in this race. And what are these guys up to staying out here?
This is very interesting tactic by Astrodite and Mario, and they could be being fed different information by their Jeff, their race engineer. They could be, getting that information. There goes Sindaco now ahead of Astrodite, and these intermediate compound tires are really, really betraying them here. Ruben's also going to be feeling it. He's going to be losing time to the cars ahead. But Sindaco is absolutely charging through, and he has 42 seconds to Microlander ahead. Microlander only 1 second to Remco Van Putten. And one thing to talk about here, we have the two Ferraris, 1 and 3. We have the AlphaTauri in second, and there's Remco in fourth. So this race has just been up and down. If you look at the position changes as well, it's quite interesting to see quite interesting to see. Freeware's made it up 1, Bitto down 1. Valu's maintained lead of this race. Remco and Microlander up 4 each. Sindaco's down 2. Astra's up 5, and Mario's had an issue now, resulting in position loss. There goes Jean and Ginicari.
Well, he hasn't had an issue, Striff. He's just on the intermediate compound tyres. He's just going slowly. He's just on the wrong tyres, and he seems too stubborn. Or I don't know what's going through his mind right now as Relapse is coming down. Look, but he's trying to look too in the wrong place. I said it was a bad place to overtake, and Relapse has just found that out with a quick trip to the wall.
So fortunate. He is so fortunate. There's no wing damage on that Renault.
Why has he tried it through there? It's like you said, he's very lucky, but wow. Very, very lucky, very risky move. But surely these guys on the Inters have to come in now. Relapse, he's not going to have to come in. He is on the wet compound tyres right now, but goodness me. He is very, very lucky, and Relapse does make the move on Mario Rossi.
John almost with a slide through that banking. He was very, very touch and go through there. He got things under control. He's maintaining half a second to Ginicari ahead, and this race is just so intense. It's such a battle of strategy here, and honestly, we've had 20 drivers begin this race, and there goes, who's that? That's Astrodite. Astrodite's had an issue. He's gone into the wall. He's got fast movers coming through now. He's got a good portion of damage on that front left wing. Oh no, so he's missing that front left end plate, and it could be a good portion of course, the downforce elements on it.
Well, I have to assume that Astrodite and Mario weren't listening because they've both had issues, and I think it's as a result of those intermediate tyres I keep banging on about. But Mario has finally come in. He has got off of those intermediate tyres. He's on the full wets, and Jin and Ginicari are still locked in this battle. They've been in it all race, and it's been a pretty good sight to behold, to say the very least, about it. But
for those just tuning in, asking about the damage, asking about the damage. This is the endurance series for MRL, so in these sessions we do utilize regular corner cutting and reduce damage just so that the drivers can have some fun in this 100% endeavor. There goes Hurricane ahead of Astrodite now. Meanwhile, Jean is still quite tight to Ginicari, but yeah, so we have the regular corner cutting, reduce damage, give these drivers the opportunity to race a full distance, having a little bit of fun, and now we have a very, very weather-affected race here. There goes Astrodite into the pit lane now. He's got to come in for some dry compound tires.
that has to be a mistake.
Wow,
that has to be a mistake.
Wow, of course, for the regular MRL League races, they are 50% distance, 18-minute qualifying. They are ran on strict corner cutting and full damage.
I know I said the Inters were the wrong compound of tyres, but that was not to suggest that the hards were the right compound of tyres. As Astrodite is now finding out by reversing out of the pit lane.
He is done with this, I think. I think that was the worst thing that could possibly happen to him in this race. John right now, Freeware is going through some traffic. Freeware is in P2, cutting through traffic right now. He is up to Ginicari in this grid.
Yeah, Astrodite, he is out of this session. I don't think he would have made it around anywhere near fast enough on those hard compound tyres to make anything of this race. But like you said, Freeware carving through some traffic right now, and I've got to say the traffic today have been very good at getting out the way in these very tricky conditions. It's been super tense for a lot of these drivers, and with all this rain, the cars are pretty difficult to control, and everyone getting out of the way of the leaders, the faster drivers. Everyone on this grid has been showing some incredible pace given the conditions, and Ruben is still out on those intermediate compounded tyres. And I do think the rain is lessening now. it's still very wet on the track, and obviously the standing water combined with that continuous stream of downpour from the heavens is not going to help the situation. But it does look like the rain is easing on just a tiny little bit. Whether we'll see it go back to dry before the end of the race, well, that would be very interesting. But
yeah, time will tell. This is some very, very heavy conditions, and of course Sean just does not want to give up here. He's so tight to the rear of Gianakari. There goes Ruben pulling off to the inside. Blue flag being waved to him. And Jean had a bit of a brush on the exit of that banking, and I think it compromised his run on Gianakari here. So tight to the inside. But I think I'm going to be in the voice chat later, and the racers of this one are going to be either telling me that was one of the greatest races they've ever experienced in all of the different dynamics and all of the overtaking, or they're going to be very, very upset. I think I can think of 6 drivers who might be a little upset.
yeah, just to name a few, I think. But these two right now, I'm sure they're having, like you said, one of the greatest battles they've ever had. It's been super clean, and it's been going on for so long, probably the distance of a traditional league race, and these guys have just been at it tooth and nail for the past 30 or so laps, and it's great to see, and these kind of battles is what make this endurance series so great to watch. They've been going for so long, and Sindaku now into the pit lane. Is he going back to intermediate tyres? What is the Williams opting for? He is.
Wow. There goes Gianakari with a big slide out coming out of the final banking, and John has gone right into him. Oh no, and I do believe they both have damage. I think Gianakari is missing his front left end plate, and now John is missing his front right. Oh no, and Relapse is behind them. He's just past Ruben, and he has a clean front wing on that Renault.
Yeah, that is so unfortunate for these two. Now, they might be added to the list of people who didn't enjoy this. It's a mistake. It's bound to happen in, you know, a race of your career, and it just so happens that after so long going wheel to wheel in such heavy conditions, and if they are now Jin up the inside of Gianakari, pretty bold move from the Alfa Romeo, but he's made it work. But yeah, it was bound to happen in these treacherous conditions.
Behind them then in the Haas? Is that Gauzian just right on the rear of them, the past back marker? Yes, it is. There's a Red Bull who's had an issue now. Who is that then? That is Liam. In P12, he has had an issue.
I think it is, again, the time that we see conditions favouring another set of tyres. This time, it's the Inters that are the kings, and I was banging on for so long that the Inters were the wrong hop of the tyres, and now it's switched over. So, yeah, it is now back to, well, not green flag racing, it says a Ferrari.
Who's that then? And
it's
the Ferrari,
Valu.
that Valu has had a major issue coming down the hill on those wet compound tires.
What's
this
the
is
damage?
going to be huge. And the damage, I'm just finding out now, I don't believe there's any damage on the front right, but the left side is just gone.
And Freeware's not too far behind him, and he's on fresh Inters. Freeware, with 23 seconds behind him to Alex Miller, that's probably going to increase, because I don't think the Ferrari is just out of the pit lane now. Freeware is in for a big amount of profit here in terms of choke position and where he is going to come out when Valu inevitably comes into the pit lane. The Ferrari and the AlphaTauri on this DRS straight when it's not. Liam's picking up a 5-second time, but
I think he's going to catch him before he gets into the pit lane, not when he comes out of it. Look at the traction in comparison. That damage has cost him dearly. Look at Freeware. He's already found that Ferrari.
Ooh, and Valu coming across a little bit too far to the right, but there he goes into the pit lane now. Michael Lander and Remco van Putten are pretty tight to each other, but this man right here, Alex Biddo, started this race in second behind his teammate. Is his teammate going to stay in front of the Spaniard, or for the first time in this race, is Valu going to drop behind? The Ferrari is still in the pit lane. He'll still be under the limiter. He hasn't got quite as far to go around turn 1 as Alex Biddo. Here he is. There's the Ferrari coming out of the pit lane. Let's Alex Biddo not too far behind at all. And they are within a second of each other. This could get very interesting for the Scuderia. Yeah, as Alex Biddo with his teammate in his sights once again. It's been a long time, but the Spaniard's stuck with this race, and now he might be able to see the reward.
Alex Biddo in third position, doing so well. And who else isn't too far behind? That's Remco van Putten in that Red Bull 2.6. He can see them fighting just not too far in the distance. He has a little bit of traffic to work through. And that's Hurricane and Junakari. Junakari is in 9th, Hurricane in 10th at the moment. John is in 7th position on this grid. And everybody on this grid, onto those green intermediate compound tires here. We're on lap 56, soon to be lap 57. And the big question is the rain going to be gone for good anytime soon, or are we going to have wet weather to the end here? There's a big issue for Hurricane as he pulls off for, well, it's not an issue. Yeah, that's a blue flag being waved to Hurricane there. And the amount of times some of these drivers have been lapped is quite unfortunate.
Oh, he's made a huge error though. He's let past Mario Rossi. That wasn't a car that was under that blue flag, and he's let the Williams past.
Oh, well, that isn't too good.
He's also lost 4 seconds to Junakari, who was 4/10 behind prior to it. So, yeah, not the best way to let blue flag.
Liam has had an issue coming out of the final banking. Does he have damage? It does not appear he has damage. He is not going into the pit lane. No damage on the Red Bull.
Yeah, and whilst Alex Biddo has caught his teammate up, freeware 23.5 seconds ahead of Valu for P1 and P2. He is just coming down into turn 1, whilst everyone else comes down into P11, turn 11. And it's Hurricane, well, watching Mario Rossi and Junakari go side by side. Mario Rossi up into 9th place. The McLaren left back down in 10th, and the battle for the final points finishing is very much on, and it's Liam having another issue again through
Hurricane
turn 10.
With a very clean move as Junakari snapped to the inside on the exit. Hurricane just breezed right by him into 10th position heading into turn 1. Mario Rossi's caught a little bit of the inside curbing now. Hurricane is going to be looking to take 2 very quickly here. He wants to get that Williams done as well for P9, and Mario has a back marker ahead of him.
Yeah, not too long to go now in this race. Still a fair few laps, but it's a short lap, probably, what, about 20 minutes or so, depending on if we see a safety car. We haven't seen one yet. That doesn't mean we won't see one before the tail end of this race. It's still possible to get one.
When I said it was a back marker, I was clearly mistaken, as it's just Mario Rossi in P9 casually following the P5 driver in this race. That's Microlander in the Renault. These conditions playing tricks on everybody here on Halloween.
I do believe I'm actually in November now. So Halloween has been and gone for me. I do believe I'm in November, but it looks like it's another issue for the Red Bull of Liam, who has got a substantial amount of damage on that number 30 Red Bull.
Yeah, he has not had a good time at all in these conditions.
In a gravel trap. Yep. And there's someone else having an issue. It's the hassle. It's not Hurricane, it's Gauzy Egg. Just brushing with the McLaren there.
Mario Rossi has caught up with Relapse. Relapse is on the rear of his teammate, who has now lapped him. Hurricane isn't too far behind.
Yeah, I think Relapse has been that blue flag has cost him a little bit, is all I'm trying to say. Letting his teammate past has obviously allowed Mario Rossi and Hurricane to reel in the other Renault, and these 3 cars battling out for what are the last 3 point scoring positions, and they're so tight to one another as they come down this, well, you could call it the back straight, I guess, down into turn 12, and they're not exchanging positions, but they are keeping themselves very tight, and Liam is out of this race. It is in the pit lane. So unfortunate to see the Red Bull go, and there's now 7 retirements. No, yeah, 7 retirements. I can count there of this race so far, but still no full safety car.
Yeah, I think as a result of the reduced damage, safety cars a little less likely in these endurance series races, but they're not unheard of. We had some last week. Right now, though, where there is potential for a safety car is Hurricane and Mario Rossi hunting down relapse for 8th position right now. They are all within a second of this P8 position.
Well, Hurricane actually had an issue coming into that turn 4. It looked like he went a little bit deep. Maybe was looking for a move, realised that it wasn't great, and then as a result had to just make little bits of evasive action to avoid going into the rear of the Williams there. But it looks like the Williams now, Mario Rossi, might have had a little kick out of the rear as they come onto the straight. He is still in P9, and it looks like he has fully recovered. But these 3 still very much going at it. Alex Bello has dropped off his teammate as well. It doesn't look like he will be finishing ahead of his very, very quick teammate, it would seem, in his MRL debut. A strong drive. He has made 1 mistake though. Will he make a second with 12 laps to go here around Zandvoort now? Mario Rossi looking at relapse down towards turn 1 there, side by side. There's a little bit of a touch between the Renault and the Williams. It's the Williams up the inside of turn 1. Don't forget Hurricane. He is situated right behind them.
I don't know if that was lag or if that was a move, but Relapse and Mario Rossi have come together, and now there is damage on that Renault. Massive damage at that. I do believe he's missing both end plates.
Shinikari, he got through Scotch 3. Mario Rossi got through as well. No damage, and yeah, Relapse, like you said, missing both end plates on the Renault, so he will not be very happy. We didn't quite see whatever happened. The side camera just sort of a little bit of a blind spot there for the camera operators, it would seem. But we did see them coming off out of the turn 2, and that's an unfortunate way to end such an exciting battle. We haven't got too many laps to go, and it's unlikely that Relapse is going to be able to recover from this position.
The rain has completely stopped here, and the big question is, are we going to see dry tires at the end of this race? 11 laps to go. I don't think it's that far out of reach here. We'll have to see if DRS comes across from race control at any point in time, and somebody who could really use that is Mario Rossi in 10th. No damage on that front end. He's looking at Ginicari for 9th.
Well, if we did see it dry up, that could provide a very, very interesting end result here, because let me propose this. If, let's say it dries up, Value comes in on the optimum lap to hop onto those soft compound tyres, as Relapse does just that. The Renault driver getting a repair on his front wing and also hopping onto the dries. But let's say Value comes in at the right time, Freeware stays out another lap, and those intermediate tyres, we've already seen the circuit drive very quickly here once this evening. If that happens again, let's say Freeware makes the mistake of staying out just too long, and he spins. That could close the...
unheard of in Freeware's cases. It's usually after he gets under fresh rubber after a long stint that we've seen him have those spins. I think most notably Russia was one of those cases. I think he did it last week in Australia as well. Can't remember. But that was a very long race, very intense race. Ginicari right now, speaking of intense, has Mario Rossi breathing down his neck. Both of these racers still on those green walled intermediate compound tires. Are either of these racers going to opt to jump into the pit lane here? No. It's a drag race between the two of them, and it's a good run for Mario heading down into turn 1, but Ginicari, he holds it through But a very neat move from Mario up the inside as Gianakari went a little deep through the turn there in a defensive maneuver, what I would expect. And here goes Mario. Now he's got Ginny looking at his inside.
Microlander joins ribbon and relapse on the soft combat tyre. And this track does dry very quickly, but there is still spray coming off of these cars. It's very much reduced as to what we were seeing a few laps ago, but I do think we are going to see soft compound tyres on all of these cars towards the end of this race, unless no one's got any fresh softs left. If they have all used them up and are forced to go on to maybe mediums, but there it is. DRS has been enabled, and someone's had a spin. Well, it's the Alfa Romeo of Jean.
These tires are so slippery. I was on board with Gianakari, and he was struggling. So I think it is time for soft compound tires, and somebody who's really made a good call here, I think, to get on them is Microlander.
Valu's come in. First of the leaders. Well, Microlander as well. Here comes Remco Van Putten. Into the pit lane. Is Microlander going to get the undercut here? Where is this Renault going to come out in relation to Remco Van Putten? He wasn't too far off the rear of the Red Bull beforehand. What is it going to be like when Remco comes out of the pit lane?
I think he might get him. I think he's going to get him. The Renault's going to get the Red Bull coming down through.
Oh, it's going to be close, Striff. It's going to be close, but he's going to get it on the power earlier, and it is. Microlander up into P4. Very nicely done from not only Microlander, but the Renault pit wall as well. That's an excellent decision coming out of them, but it's not over yet. Remco Van Putten looking like he might want to try and come back for the Renault. He's going to go, oh, that's not where you want to come through. That's not where you want to do it, and Remco knows that he's had to back out of that one, getting very, very close to the rear of that Renault. It strides so quickly here at Zandvoort. Freeware coming onto those tyres. Alex Bidot still on the inters. They're going to be so hot. He's not going to be happy. His teammate already behind them.
Inside. What a lunge coming from the Dutchman, and he has just snuck a move through into fourth position. Now Microlander with the run on the rear of the Red Bull with the DRS. They're coming wheel to wheel down through the right-hander now. The Red Bull extending a little bit longer off the brakes. Oh, wow. What a battle between these two.
Super tight racing. We're 64 laps in, and we've still got it here. Alex Bidot, it looks like third place is the best he's going to have. There's a yellow flag. It's relapse in the other Renault, but the other Renault, his teammate Microlander and Remco Van Putten are still side by side. It's through turn one. Remco holding on to P4 for the time being, and they're not too far behind the Ferrari of Alex Bidot, so if they can put their battling behind them, they might catch him, but
Mario Rossi and Hurricane are just as tight right on the rear, and they had an exchange right on the rear of this battle. And now there goes Mario almost into the rear of Hurricane coming down the hill. It is currently the Red Bull, Renault, and Haas plus Mario in the Williams in this train, although, of course, Remco Van Putten and Microlander are on the present lap. Hurricane and Mario are a lap down, so this is very intense racing.
super tight stuff. Relapse coming into the pits, presumably for a wing change, but he's actually retiring the car. Too far down in his eyes to do anything about it. Just 7 laps from the end. Mario Rossi going to do anything down into turn 1. Microlander in front of Hurricane. It looks like the front runner might just be causing the Haas here. It's 5th versus 8th, but it looks like he might be having a little bit of a problem trying to get past the runner, and he's got a fast moving Williams behind him. You can see Mario Rossi side by side with the Haas. There's a little bit of contact, and that's Hurricane into the grass. Mario Rossi, sorry, might be costing Microlander a little bit of time there, going side by side with the car that's a lap ahead of him. So
that was such a dirty move there. Mario Rossi almost tried to overtake the lead driver. Of course, Mario is a lap down right now. Microlander not in his race at the moment. Oh, wow. And that really cost Hurricane there.
Yeah, that was very almost a situation we saw in Brazil just a few years ago between Mr. Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon. But thankfully, a little bit less eventful between the two. Mike Hollander does seem to have suffered some damage, though. Well, the wing looks fine, but maybe damage that he's at least feeling. He's got the time, it would seem, to Sindaku. So, he's onto a fresh wing. Fresh set of tyres. And the runner now hopping out of the pit lane. You can see Sindaku coming down across the line. But he was battling Remco Van Peutman, and if penalties would play into the role, they probably won't now. He's too far down on the Red Bull now to really do anything about it, and we are about 5 laps from the end, and Freeware still looking pretty strong, but it does look like the Ferrari of Value might be catching him, but I think it's too late. As Freeware has 17 seconds to the Ferrari behind him, and Value only has 5 seconds if he wants to close that gap. No.
Hurricane is 1.4 off of Mario. Mario 1.8 off of Jean. We're on lap 67 here. There's a yellow flag coming up. Who's that? I think that's Ruben. Ruben's done a 180 coming down into the banking section here. Just watched a couple cars go by. Another car is just
Kari.
Yeah, that really was tight for him.
The problem there is that he has to get that car spun around, or he's going to have what happened to Codders, and he's going to get DSQ'd for facing the wrong way and being parked in dangerous locations. So, yeah, pretty difficult for Ruben there, but that barrier caught him off guard and it almost put him in the path of the unexpected McLaren of Jean Kari. But we're on lap 68 now of 72. It's been such a long race. It's been such an enjoyable race as well to watch.
It really has been, because it's been such a dynamic race. Here comes Freeware now. He's on lap 68. He's on these 3-lap-old softs. This is where we can start to see issues. You're getting down to the end. You know, you're thinking you've got it. Here goes Mario up the inside of Jean now for P7. There's still points on the table for these two. Hurricane isn't too far behind them, and if this battle ensues any longer than it can here for Mario and John, then Hurricane's going to be there as well.
Yeah, and it's been such an interesting race for Jean. He's been one of the ones who's been very active. We've been saying his name plenty of times. He was battling Jean Kari earlier, someone whose name I've been saying over and over again, and I still don't think I've said it right once during this entire cast. But here he is, you know, 10th place, 6 seconds off of Hurricane now, who's tight to the rear of Jean as well, who's still in a little bit of a battle with the Williams and Mario Rossi. So 3 cars here, but the Alfa Romeo does have damage. We've only got a few laps left here. Whether we'll see him come in for a pit or whether he's just going to try and hold off that Haas. Presumably he's just going to try and hold him off. If not, he'll finish ahead of Jean Kari if he doesn't have a big issue. It's 3 laps to go on a damaged wing, but not impossible. And he is going to stay out here, but the Haas
inside, yeah, coming through on the Alfa Romeo now, wheel to wheel on the inside. There goes Hurricane, and he has cleared the Alfa Romeo on the exit, coming out of turn 1.
Yeah, not too much point of Jean fighting that. He has to just think of the bigger picture. He's probably not going to finish out of Hurricane because of that damage, but he might still be able to beat the McLaren behind him, pick up 2 points instead of 1 here. Obviously, the Endurance Series is scored, and it's a little bit less strict in the way that scoring is done elsewhere, because obviously these drivers are not locked into coming every week. It's a much more relaxed setting, but they still want to beat their friends, their rivals here in the Misfits community, and it's Jean and Jean Kari. They've been battling all race, and it looks like we might have them battle again on the last lap. The Alfa Romeo damaged, the McLaren looking like it's in pretty pristine condition. So is Jean Kari going to be able to catch the Alfa by the end of this race?
It's been a very fun and long campaign here. We're here on lap 70, about to be the penultimate lap of this race as I'm on board with Freeware now. And I have to say, it's been a heck of a fun time seeing the conditions go from dry to wet in qualifying that 18-minute session. Then we started things with a wet race, back to dry conditions, into some very, very variable wet conditions, seeing intermediate to wet, back to intermediate tire switches. Now we're here on softs for the entirety of this grid. We have seen nearly every compound of tire used by these racers. We have seen pit stops. Well, how many pit stops have we seen here? The minimum pit stops for a driver on the grid right now is 4. That's Ruben. Most of the racers have done 5. We got a few in the 6s, and Hurricane in the points has actually done 7 pit stops in this race. 7. And he is in P8.
Well, Ruben's just come into the pit, so I think you can tally that up to 5 if I heard you right. So minimum now is, well, is Freeware's had a disconnect.
Oh, well, that could be very bad for him.
He's got an AI car for 1.5 laps, and you can already see Valu closing that gap down. Is the Ferrari going to be fast enough to catch that AI control car? Hopefully Freeware can get back and regain control of that Alpha Tauri. It's coming around the final corner. He's about to start the final lap. Hurricane and Mario Rossi are still going at it. They are a lap down, obviously, but Freeware has joined. He's still in control of that car. He's lost a couple of seconds to the car behind, but he himself, as a human player, has provided his AI control car enough of a lead to remain in P1.
Yeah, most definitely. Hurricane still tight to the rear, looking for P7 now. The intervals have disappeared from our screens as this battle ensues. And I do believe we've found the reason being for that is when a driver rejoins a session. But Freeware, being the solo AlphaTauri left in this race, is leading it right now. There goes Hurricane looking at Mario into turn 1. Nothing doing just yet, but he's got a good chunk of traction right now. A fantastic exit. He is so tight to the rear of Mario Rossi right now. Less than 3/10 the gap. Freeware is heading through. Oh, there's a big snap out of Hurricane, and there goes P7. I think that might have done it for Mario, but of course penalties are going to play a role in the end of this race. But it is going to be Freeware now, rounding out the final banking here in the Netherlands, in the AlphaTauri, across the line with the race win by quite a margin as well. Valu in the Ferrari making his debut here in the Endurance Series after a very strong race, leading it for quite some time, setting that pole position, its second position for that Ferrari, and it's looking like it's going to be a 2-3 for the Scuderia, as that is, yes, the Spaniard, Alex Bitto, rounding out the final banking now. Looking to bring home the 2-3 for the Scuderia now. Of course, that is going to be, in this situation, the Raging Bull of Remco van Houten coming in 4th position. The Dutchman wanted the win. He is going to get P4. Sindako now in the Williams will be looking to capture P5 with Microlander.
I think Microlander's just had an issue. I think he was in P5. He was.
I was going to say Sindako. I think.
Oh, he's had a big crash into the wall. Microlander, sorry, lost a huge chunk of his portion of his front wing, I think, through turn 10, and now he's spun it on the penultimate corner. I do believe, regardless of what he does, unless he gets DSQ'd here, he will finish 6th. He needs to just cross this line. He needs to get that car moving. Don't drive the wrong way, Microlander. Don't want to throw a 6th place away at the line. Everyone else has caught the checkered flag. Here comes the Freeware. Well, the AI of Freeware. He's finished this race, but Microlander is going to cross the line, trailing gravel behind him.
Yeah, he's out of fuel, and he's just making sure he makes his territory, marks his territory there as he crosses the line. Having a little bit of fun at the end of 72 laps in this race. What a long haul. What a torrential downpour we had in this race. So much overtaking action. This one was definitely one to remember, and congratulations to everybody that made it through start to finish, lapped or not. There you have it, the AlphaTauri with the race win. That's Freeware, and you have, of course, Valu and Alex Bitto, the two Ferraris, 2 and 3. What a race. What a race. That was round 13 of the Endurance Series. 100% distance racing. We do it every single weekend of regular Formula One running. Of course, we'd like to have visited Imola, not in the game, so we had a vote, and here we are. 109.658, the fastest lap in this one as well, Unicorn.
Yeah, Freeway third to first. He's going to be very happy. He's beaten both of those Ferraris out there. And Alex Bitter and Valo both a pretty strong drive, but I'm sure, regardless of the podium, they're going to be a bit disappointed.
Tire chart, that is going to be...
Oh, that's like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, it does. It does. A bunch of different colors there. We've seen such a difference in tire strategy here.
Looking at penalties, there's not really that many here. It's mostly things like speeding in the pit lane that most drivers have picked up there, but
so many wing changes as well in this race. So much fun.
Yeah, look at that. You can see where all the different conditions came into play throughout this race, but it is Freeway who wins. Valo, Alex Bitter, Remco Van Putten, Sindaku, Mike Rolona, Mario Rossi, Hurricane Jean, and Giancari in the top 10. Ruben and Gorzieg, the only two drivers to finish outside of the top 10, with Relapse, Liam, Astrolite, Luxor, Yoda, Vettel, Codders, and Cactus all DNFing.
Of course.
Oh, wow, what a race.
It was such a long haul, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, for those of you tuning in, we hope you did as well. If you're new, hit that follow button. We are going to be jumping on over and rating a member of the F1 community in just a quick moment's time. Of course, hit that. Well, join the Discord if you're looking to race. This is a race that we do every weekend that there's F1 running, and if you are looking to race in it, all you have to do is join the Discord and mark yourself as attending. It's a first come first serve race, so join us in the Discord. It's a lot of fun. We have the regular league racing. We have 5 races around Singapore coming this week. The first one is going to be at 8 p.m. GMT. That's going to be, of course, on Tuesday. That's the EU Grid, and Unicorn and I will be back for that. But thank you so much, everybody. Unicorn, of course, for you. Any last thoughts, any last words before we head on over and raid?
Oh, I think that was just... It's always an interesting race, these 100% races. It's such a different dynamic to what we're used to. You know, we come into them on a Saturday, most weekends at least, and then you throw in a good bit of rain. I know you love rain. I know I love it when it's those few laps that you've got where you're changing between slicks and wets, and then, well, that race we had wets, inters to dries to inters, inters to wets, wets to inters, inters to dries, I want to say. So, yeah, a very interesting race, a very enjoyable race, a lot of great drives, and yeah, it's just a very, very, very enjoyable race to watch. So, and I'm sure everyone else, well, I hope everyone else watching at home enjoyed that just as much as I think the pair of us did. But yeah, looking forward to Singapore this weekend. This week.
This week, yeah, we have a whole week of Singapore racing. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, we're going to hit you guys with the usual outro. We're going to rate a member of the community. It's a Halloween in some places. It's the 1st of November in your case, of course, Unicorn. And thank you so much, as always, for commentating with me. And thank you so much to everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been November for an hour. But yeah, we're going to hit you with that outro, and we'll catch you all later.